What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Brian, lots to talk about within the DC universe. I don't know if we quite talked of the possibility. We perhaps touched on it, but we probably simply scoffed at the idea that they would cancel something like this. Batman cancel? Guaranteed money? What are the pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
And then we got some stuff with the Superman hype, man. Like I said before, and I continue to stay on the same platform of I'm not saying nothing. I'm not listening to nothing until I see this movie. What anybody has to say, I can talk to you. I could talk to a few people why we're hyped and why we're concerned, but I'm not listening to the hate. I'm not listening to the hate until I see this movie, because people are hating it for whatever reason. They're nitpicking too early for something that they showed you nothing. They showed you nothing. Who knows if whom you're seeing is actually Superman? I continue to have this theory that is Bizarro and we don't even know it. But let's see. What else is happening in the DCU, Brian?
So this Batman Part 2, is it happening? Is it canceled? Report will not die, or rumor, I guess, not really, just more just buzz, right? So we've had lots of delays. We went through a phase of Matt Reeves was finishing the script for what seemed an inordinate amount of time. Then we actually went to a couple, Andy Serkis saying it was going to shoot in the first quarter of 2025. That didn't happen. Then we got it's going to shoot in the winter of 2025. That seems less likely. And then we got this rumor about Matt Reeves' health maybe being an issue most recently. And we continue to hear this drumbeat, despite repeated denials from the studio, that the movie is actually in jeopardy of not happening at all. And that has come back up in the last week or so, that there's more rumblings that the movie's not happening. Now, the most recent refutation of that from WB was about 2 weeks ago. It is admittedly not as direct as the previous ones, where James Gunn would get on socials and they would literally be like, is Batman 2 canceled? Question. And then he would just respond, no. This time he hasn't said anything. So James Gunn has not responded to the latest rumors. There has been a quasi-response from Michael DeLuca, who's the head of Warner Brothers, co-head of Warner Brothers Movies, where he kind of said, it's not real. So first thing he says is, we're not in the weeds on the Batman stuff, which I think is a little ominous. He said, that's really James and Peter who run that. But then he says, we have a bit of other collaboration with Matt Reeves, but Peter and James know he is a writer, director, auteur in his own right, and the film will come when he's written his best Batman script and it's ready, end quote. That is not a black and white, yes, it's happening, to me, compared to what we've gotten. That is more, I'm not that close to the situation. I do work with Matt sometimes, but I assume it'll be made when it's good and ready. It is a little wishy-washy. I don't know. Where would you put odds? Okay, so let's do the scenarios. Where would you put odds Batman 2 canceled altogether?
I'll be 75%.
That is canceled?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm still low. Canceled in all forms, I'm saying. So like no replacement director, nothing. Like totally taken off the board.
If Superman succeeds, then the call for James Gunn's Batman will be louder. And this other project, although we got a visually different Batman in the Batman, is it worth the headache? Because we're trying to do a trilogy here. How long is it going to take for this? Are you telling me you have a third movie already? You're going to shoot back to back? If you're talking like that, then maybe I'm even considering it. But I need to start on this. You know what I'm saying? I would only continue. I would only want to continue if we can shoot this back to back. If we can't do that, then
Okay.
just so that I can get my trilogy.
Okay, so you and I disagree on this. I think the odds that it gets canceled altogether are still really low. I think less than 10%, just because I can just go off the track record of movies that make that much money the first time out. There's just such a limited track record of not, and they're franchise IP, right? They're not like a true one off. I just think they'll find a way to make a Batman Part 2. Now, that's 10% that it gets canceled altogether, like totally canceled. So to your point, the next Batman movie we see is Brave and the Bold. Okay. What percent would you say it happens, but Matt Reeves is not the director?
40%.
Okay, so now we're closer. I would say 35%, 1 in 3. I think one chance in 3, basically, that I think this movie does happen, but he either exits or is taken off the project because it's taken too long. And especially if there are any personal issues or anything like that. But even if there's not, I think the studio is done waiting. Either way.
Yeah. Because imagine Superman does well. And they already have this movie coming because we still don't have our DCU Batman. But again, if Superman does well, and look what happened when they showed what's his dude Batman in
In the animated
Creature Commandos.
Creature Commandos.
Yes. Look what happened.
Yeah.
Look what happened.
Yeah.
What happened? You tell me, Brian. What happened?
Internet lost its mind. I mean, and we talked about it. Look at State Farm continuing to run their ad campaign with Batman and Bateman. Like, there's a reason it's Batman.
When that commercial pops up, I stop what I'm doing.
Of course. Of course. And they've got a whole series of them at this point.
So they can't.
Obviously, it's working.
They can't Easter egging and doing all that stuff to start speculating. People are gonna, Batman is a moneymaker. If Superman is a hit and James Gunn's, all it does is makes you look forward to James Gunn's Batman. That's all it does. And then the question.
I like that you refer to it as that, because you and I are in this agreement that the mystery project he is writing currently is a take on Brave and the Bold, and because he's under pressure from Zaslav to get Batman on the board again. So we agree. I think that's, so call it 35 to 40% chance the movie happens, but not with Matt Reeves as director. And I think that arrow is pointed upward. I think every week that we don't get a commitment to going forward, the odds of the movie happening with a different director increase. The odds that Matt Reeves does it decreases. Okay, next question. What are the odds that if they do, assuming they do Batman Part 2, that this is the finale? There is no trilogy.
I'll be like 50%.
I'm with you. I think it's a coin flip. So this is where I would say, even if the movie's successful, I think it's a coin flip as to whether they finish it for exactly the reason you said, which is I think they really want to go center stage for DCU Batman. And since it seems like, especially in this kind of limbo, Robert Pattinson is not going to be that. Although I still ask the question, like, if somehow this project comes together and winds up being an event and he winds up just crushing the part, I am curious to see the public reaction to that. If DC's next move is to be like, okay, thanks, awesome job, here's our Batman. I'm just curious, because that will be a new world for us. So like the movie makes $1.4 billion, and people are like, this guy redefined what it meant to be Bruce Wayne and Batman. But now his series is over and he's being replaced. I just want to see what the public reaction to that looks like.
At the end of the day, once this Superman movie is done, listen, if it's, you know how when you the clean rooms, you know how when you go into the clean, everybody's in things. There's no contamination. If there is contamination of the Batman in this, everybody's going to be wondering and asking about it. We see Wayne anywhere, forget it. Who is Bruce Wayne? Who is Batman? But no, we got to think about if we get in the Batman 2 and Mr. Freeze in them. We don't know yet, right? I would try to work something out like that. Yo, give me film back to back. Give me a trilogy, but give me something dope. But listen, I hope that Matt Reeves isn't, and it's hard to let go, right? Or something like this. I'm pretty sure it was hard for Zach to let go. Well,
You think?
yeah, I think so. I think it was hard for him to let go.
What gives you that idea?
But obviously, right? But
Yeah. The 4-hour cut, the black and white cut. What gives you the idea he had a tough time letting go of that?
So it's so I understand Matt Reeves in a sense that perhaps this is he has an idea, he just hasn't fleshed it out. I don't know what his process is, but we got to get a trilogy out of this.
There's only one filmmaker in the world that studios wait for completely on his timetable, and that's Jim Cameron. It's the only one. But we know the reason why. 2 billion, 3 billion. That's why. Because the guy has 3 of the top 5 grossing movies of all time, and he's never missed.
He gives you the what's it, James Earl Jones in Coming to America? Let them wait. That's it. Let them wait.
So I think that's probably where we're headed. Now, what I had one other question. I thought about this the other night. Okay, what are the odds that whether or not this movie happens, and we're kind of at getting to the 5-yard line of the Matt Reeves Batman franchise, what are the odds that this version of Batman lives on in the Penguin, and they find a way to bring the Penguin back? They move on to DCU Batman on the big screen, but the Reeves versus Batman, whether it's Pattinson or whether he's recast, moves into small screen opposite the Penguin for at least one season.
I like that too. Just to finish, and who knows? Listen, if you think about it this way, that gives Robert Pattinson an opportunity to appear not all the time. It'll be limited. Yo, we need you for these 3 things that we're going to do. You could probably just go once and that's a season. I don't know. You could probably go for a week and be done.
So I think this idea, I think it's a low odds. If I'm being honest, if I was putting percentages, I'd say 10% because it's just not how this is done.
Yeah.
But creatively, I think it has potential.
Oh, hells yeah.
Because they did such a good job with the Penguin. And if they keep the story from Farrell's perspective, dueling with the Batman, even though we probably ultimately know that our Penguin will end up in Arkham or end up defeated, I would love to see, in that world, I would love to see the perspective of him trying to outwit Batman from his side. And Batman is as you say, the peripheral character who comes in and is sort of the second build. And to your point, Robert Pattinson, who's clearly hedging already his career bet because he's now the villain in Dune 3, which is a very big movie and a very big part for WB. It's probably a setup that both Farrell and Pattinson might enjoy more because they get to go head to head. But to your point, is they're not as committed to the long productions. I just kind of want to see. We haven't tried that. We haven't tried Batman from the villain's perspective where Batman was actually involved, right? Joker movies, we never got there. Like Bruce Wayne's a kid. We don't see Batman go up against Arthur Fleck ever. I don't know. I just floating it as like a way to sort of solve this. Or I don't feel like it's totally competitive either. I feel like you could watch that on HBO Max and HBO and not feel like it's cannibalizing Alan Ritchson's Batman.
It is what it is, Brian. Like to think, I mean, this other guy, what's his name? Sklenar. Whoever they choose as a Batman, that dude, there would be no place that this person can hide without everybody coming at him, asking him questions because Batman is a big deal, yo. Batman is a big deal. So for them to even announce anything like that right now is just preposterous in my mind. But I've always had the conversation that the possibility of having 2 Batmans out there is not an impossible idea, yo. You've had 3 Spider-Mans, as you said, Brian. on screen.
You've also had Superman on TV and movie, right? The Brandon Superman Returns comes out in 2006 at the height of Smallville's popularity. Like you had two.
Yeah,
They just haven't allowed it with Batman before.
yeah.
They've treated that character differently to where they don't want multiple versions, but they've signed up effectively for that in this case. I still think they get bailed out by the fact that the Reeves versus Batman is younger and the one they want to show in Brave and the Bold is older. I think you're fine. I think you're fine.
Imagine, yo, like you said, season 2 from the Penguin's perspective. Now that this, all we see is Batman's carnage. All we hear is about. We don't even see Batman. We could see his fingerprints. And perhaps at the end of the season, at the end of the last 2 episodes, is like you get a story arc with Batman, whatever. From the perspective where now you meet him because he's found you.
I think so. I mean, I think about it like a little bit like how Moon Knight wouldn't show you the alter ego's damage, but then after the fact. So think about it as like Penguin's the crime boss. He's got his operations and schemes, and then he shows up, and it's like Batman's been there, and his dudes are wrecked, and the product is taken, and yeah, I kind of want to see it.
How he reacts. You're basically getting the perspective of who Batman is from everybody.
And he doesn't know that Bruce is Batman, right? So he knows Bruce individually. So this is also where I would say, like, it'd be fun to have Pattinson in the show a little bit. He could interact with him as Bruce. And Colin Farrell doesn't know that he's actually dealing with Batman, but we know that. I think it would be really fun. I think it'd be a bold choice. I think it would be huge for the show, which is already Emmy nominated. And I can't conceive of a world where we're going to end up having had one Reeves versus Batman movie and one season of Penguin, given how good and how successful both were. That would just seem very strange in the annals of Hollywood.
It would hasten the DCU Batman because they do want a Batman. They want a Batman up there because they know that's where what did
I mean, I think they're going to be desperate for it either way, right? I mean, like, if Superman's a mega hit, I would probably tell them, well, that's a sign you should probably really focus intently on that franchise. But part of the studio's response to that, and part of Zaslav's response to that is going to be, great, we have a platform. Call to the bullpen, get Batman on the field. Like, that's clearly going to be part of the response. If the movie is not successful, then it will be a desperate call to the bullpen to get Batman on the field to try to prop up the ship. Yeah. So either way, you're kind of led to this place of Zaslav is going to just ratchet up the pressure on Gunn and Safran to get Batman in play. I mean, I don't want it rushed, but that's the reality of what's going to happen.
And the only way you make it better is by saying Alan Vision is Batman. Right? That's how you get the excitement going crazy.
I think in retrospect, because I have utmost respect for Matt Reeves as a creator, but like, and who knows where things were in 2024. But I think in retrospect, there will be some regret all around that Batman Part 2 has not already happened. If that makes sense. I think in a perfect world, as in our perfect world, Batman Part 2 would have come out right after season 1 of The Penguin, and we'd already have had it right now with Superman on deck.
Yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you think of the latest with the Batman and the possibility of it being canceled altogether just to get a Batman up on the screen, because you know what I'm saying? There's nothing, you need a Batman up on screen if you want money. Batman is Spider-Man, He's up on that level. That's why we keep getting recast and recast. We don't care who's playing. We want Spider-Man up there. And the same thing is with Batman, and we can tell you who's been Batman, That's if we can do that with all the stuff, of all the knowledge that we need to know that we don't know, but we know this. Yeah. Who's been Batman? Who's been Spider-Man? Who's been this? Who's been
Good or
these?
bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Good or
Good
bad.
or bad.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Good or bad.
Yeah, good. It does not matter. Yeah, it does not matter. I mean, I think WB has had some wins here, but this is, make no mistake, this is still a race against time for cash. So if you're looking for tiebreakers, that's always the one you should have in the back of your mind. So just the math is the math. Minecraft, unexpected, big win. Sinners, unexpected, big win. Those certainly help. They don't fix the problem. They need a string of hits, and they need DC as an IP to be functional and successful to get to the place they want to get to. No one movie in DC is going to achieve that for them overnight. But Superman is the launch pad, literally. Like, that's what they're hoping for. But if it's the launch pad, they need more. The point of getting Superman out of the gate is so that Supergirl has a better chance, so that they can get Batman going, so that they can get some of the other projects that they've talked about off the ground. They need a lot of these to get out of the debt load and the problem they've gotten themselves into. Like, this is not a, they just happen to have had, like, okay, you know, unexpected windfalls this April. That's great. Now they need momentum. So, and there's just no world where DC can succeed if Batman is on the sidelines. None.
Hype, Brian, around Superman. What's going on?
Oh, man. Oh. Michael DeLuca, our aforementioned, channeling his inner Don King to talk about Superman, said, quote, James Gunn crushed it. The movie has his trademark heart, trademark humor, and jaw-dropping action. It is the Superman I grew up with. I got so choked up when I watched it. I think it's so epic and visually arresting and emotional. The performances are great. It is a 5-star movie to me. I can't wait for the world to see it. Yeah, we're really excited about Superman. End quote. This from the studio that told you that Black Adam would be the best superhero movie you had seen, and that Flash was the greatest superhero movie ever filmed.
So when you when you say stuff like that, nothing you absolutely say can make me excited for anything that you want to give me. Again, I'm just waiting to see the movie, man. I'm just waiting to see the movie so that I can talk about this movie.
Second quote, and then I'm going to really try to pour some cold water on it. I would say in spirit, it's closer to Richard Donner's Superman, but it's a big hunk of epic sci-fi. It has a little bit of what I loved about Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's really a love letter to what has made Superman endure for 100 years. He, meaning Gunn, managed to get it all in there, end quote.
Quote I like from that is the love letter part. But this, like, I think you've mentioned it, Brian, your concern is that they try to emulate or make it too much like Donner's Superman.
That was Superman Returns. That was clearly a big problem with that film.
I don't care about anybody like singing the praises out of this. I need to see this movie first before I can really give you, I'm just waiting for that day. I'm waiting for that day.
Hollywood Reporter had a little post-mortem about a film called Joker, Folie à Deux, since we're talking about Michael DeLuca, Pamela Abdy as the heads of Warner Brother Motion Pictures, and of course CEO David Zaslav. Okay, so the article in Hollywood Reporter, quote, DeLuca and the studio did not test screen Joker 2 and relied on friends and family screenings only. DeLuca and Abdy were thrilled with the cut they saw, but Zaslav was not, and made it clear he had strong concerns. DeLuca has privately admitted Zaslav ultimately got it right, end quote. So the same guy that just told you Superman is all that and a bag of Kryptonian chips is also the same guy who thought Joker 2 was awesome before it came out. I get it. No one bats 1,000, but just to kind of make sure we are intellectually honest about whose perspective this is.
I don't bat 1,000 either, but my average is pretty high.
When you can see, that's the thing is, I feel like most of the time when you and I could see it, we could feel it, So like we might be off a bit on response, but we're usually not at the other end of the
Yeah,
spectrum from reality.
yeah.
So like for these guys, some mix of these guys to be like Black Adam is it, The Flash is it, and like Joker 2 is it. Like there's no world where you and I would have seen those 3 movies before they came out and been like 5-star, 5-star, 5-star.
If I knew someone that loved, I'm talking about loved Black Adam, I would want to sort of have a conversation to see what that sounds like in terms of their ability to defend this movie and tell me what they loved about it. For me, that would be an interesting conversation.
I honestly think your best, you know, the best case for who that person is like a 10-year-old kid. No, I say that because think about it. A 10-year-old kid might not have seen all of the superhero movies that Black Adam ripped off. And a 10-year-old kid might weirdly connect with the horrible kid that's in that movie. You know what I mean? And if they love The Rock as a persona, they might actually look at that movie and be like, this is groundbreaking to me. Whereas like you and I saw every movie that they stole to make that movie. And we're like offended. You know, so I think your best bet is honestly look at the 10, 11, 12-year-old demographic who's fans of The Rock for other reasons and may not have the familiarity.
What else?
So Supergirl, just a couple of quick, this has been a very small category. One thing I do like that they're doing is they're getting rid of the subtext of the titles. Remember how Superman was Superman : Legacy, and now it's just Superman? And Supergirl was Supergirl : Woman of Tomorrow because of the comic it's based on. Now it's just Supergirl. I actually think that's a small thing, but it's a good thing. Don't confuse people that there's some sort of subtext story they need to know or understand. It's Superman. You're introducing your Superman. You're introducing your Supergirl. That's it. I would not be surprised if when we get to Batman Brave and the Bold, if that just becomes Batman and Robin or Batman or something really simple for people to digest.
It'll definitely be Batman and Robin. There you go.
Doesn't it feel like it's headed in that direction?
Yeah. Batman and Robin. Today is what? April 30th, 2025. We called it.
I mean, we read the patterns. The other thing was, you know, there's been a little bit of set photos coming out there. Some have been faked. They had some fake Lobo photos, which is funny. You can go find those. People kind of AI'd Jason Momoa's Lobo. But there's been some real ones of Supergirl. And I will say this, continuing a trend we've seen in the James Gunn DCU, they are trying to go comics accurate on things like costumes. The costume that you can see on Millie Alcock in those shots is very true to how Kara looks, as in the cape is really short. She's got the boots, the skirt is short, like, and she, you know, obviously the actress is young, but they're playing the costume young. So once again, you know, similar to, you know, and how people feel about that's been varied. Obviously, like we talked about the Guy Gardner situation, but like they are trying to mirror what is on the pages, at least when it comes to the look of these characters, which I don't hate. So
as long as it don't look like Jupiter's Legacy, we good.
Yeah, what a disappointment that was. But anyway, so that's been coming out. So we'll see. And that's the only other movie we're assured of getting, I guess, on the DC side.
Brian sent me a text message. It had a link to the trailer to Smashing Machine. I ain't gonna lie, Brian. This looks very, very good.
Very good.
And this is what we've been asking from The Rock. Yeah, we haven't gone easy on The Rock, especially myself. But he's deserved the criticism. We want him to do other stuff that he's acting and not being just him. When I saw this, I was like, wow. Could we possibly hear the name Best Actor and Dwayne Johnson all in the same? Who knows? But I'm pretty sure, hopefully he doesn't pull a Rock move and try to coerce people to vote one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? But this is a performance, Brian, that you would have to at least consider if it lives up to the hype. Yeah. Let's see.
First off, both you and I are huge Rock fans from his wrestling days. We critique The Rock the way we do because we believe he has better in him. Mm-hmm. If he didn't have the ability, I wouldn't bother. Yeah. There were two things that really stood out to me in this trailer. The first is prosthetics and physical transformation. The Rock allowed himself, so he's playing Mark Kerr, one of a real, based on a true story of a former UFC fighter back before UFC became sort of the global billion-dollar phenomenon that it is. He clearly has prosthetics on his face that hide at least some of the trademark Dwayne Johnson features. I think that's really significant because it kind of says to me the actor is willing to lose some of themselves in the part. Between that and the wig, which quite honestly don't flatter him, right? It doesn't make him look better than he actually does in real life. I thought that was a significant concession. This is a guy who we know in contracts has basically said, I'm not allowed to be hit. I'm not allowed to be on the bottom of fight scenes. Like, he's pretty vain about how he looks on screen. So when I saw this, I was like, are we seeing a little bit of the humbling of The Rock? Is he willing to do these things that we've asked him to do? The second thing is, he's not using what has become his default Rock Hollywood voice.
Yeah.
He sounds noticeably different in this trailer. He is trying to be someone else. Now, you can definitely hear some of his tics that are Dwayne Johnson. But when he's talking to the kid, like in the waiting room, there is performance happening.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, even when we zoom out, the movie actually looks really compelling.
Yes.
Like the in-ring UFC work, which obviously you would expect The Rock to be good at that. He does look very good at it. And they look like the filming from Safdie looks very interesting. I would say the dynamic with Emily Blunt, who I want to get to in a second, this is someone The Rock worked with on Jungle Cruise already and is going to work with again on the Marty Scorsese picture. They clearly do go well together on screen. That is something that has been hard for The Rock to find, quite honestly. This movie does have the makings. Now, can it get him all the way to awards nomination? I don't know, but I almost don't care. The idea of The Rock as legitimate, serious actor is not a discussion we've had for over a decade, if ever.
I think after Gridiron Gang, that was the last one. That was the last good performance.
That's 2006, 20 years almost. No, you're right though. That stretch of like Walking Tall, the Rundown. That's where
Rundown.
he actually was trying a little bit.
Yeah. Rundown. And then there was
Walking Tall is the best one, I think. That's the one I think where he's doing the most acting.
And there was some standout performances with Vince Vaughn in a comedy.
Okay.
But I think, I mean, he was good in Fast and the Furious. His
Fast Five, he's actually very good.
Yeah. He was good in that.
He gets ridiculous as the series gets ridiculous. Yes. But in Fast Five, he's very good. Even in that movie Faster, that like short action movie he does where he's actually kind of playing like almost a Terminator style driver character. Okay. He's just called Driver, I think. He's pretty good in that. Like that's a pretty good, like intense performance. Yeah. This is different though. Okay. This is like a vocal performance and an athletic performance and a dramatic performance. It is something different in the trailer. Check it out. It's worth taking a look. And I think this is a movie we're both going to check out and probably talk about on our show here. But Emily Blunt, like, so this thing, I said to you in the text, I said, are we going to have to send her a thank you card if she winds up saving his career? Because that's literally what it looks like she's doing, because he's only doing the Scorsese movie because she got him to do it. And you see the two of them in this movie and you're like, she is resurrecting The Rock as an actor.
I think so. She probably was the first one not to be afraid of telling him, like, yo, what you doing? This isn't good. For real. Because somebody, I don't know if he has anybody to tell him, yo, this is whack, yo. Because if you're watching Red Notice and you're telling me after each take, like, that was amazing.
And the weird thing about that is, like, I'm not going to say Emily Blunt resurrected Tom Cruise's career. That's too strong a statement. But at a period where Tom Cruise was struggling as a performer, far and away the best movie he does is Edge of Tomorrow with Emily Blunt. And they're good together on screen as well. I don't know. There's something about her that's like these leading men in Hollywood that have trouble finding chemistry with their co-stars seem to work well when she's opposite them.
Because she's a great performer, man. She's a great actress. And I think whomever is opposite her notices that as well and says, I gotta step my game up. I got to get this right.
It's weird because it's somebody who's never been nominated for an award, but like weirdly, I agree. I actually am. Anything she's in, I usually feel like I get my money's worth. And obviously, she's shown like in Quiet Place, she can be the lead in sort of a horror action type of situation. I know we never got the Emily Blunt Black Widow,
Imagine.
but it does make me like wish she would change her view on the genre and take a shot at one of the upcoming characters.
Yeah.
I had one other tidbit for this week in sort of the upcoming movie category that just got my attention. It was announced that a new film version of Miami Vice is being put together.
Film version of Miami Vice. Okay.
So that, and I admittedly am a fan of the Colin Farrell, Jamie Foxx, Michael Mann film from 20 years ago. I think if you haven't seen that in a while, it's worth a rewatch. I think it's aged very well. It is different. Farrell has admitted he was basically in a drug-induced stupor the entire filming of the movie, and you can kind of see it on screen. But I think it's something that actually is very distinctive. And I think the fight scene at the end is actually, the gunfight at the end is very cool at night. However, they announced a Miami Vice reboot with Joseph Kosinski as a director. So Top Gun Maverick, F1. And it's being written by Dan Gilroy, who is Tony Gilroy's brother. Ooh. Dan Gilroy is going to be in charge of the end of Andor, season 2. Just got on my radar. There was no rumors this was coming. I think it's Universal that owns the rights, announced it, so it's not rumor anymore. File that one away for a couple years from now. A new Miami Vice written by Dan Gilroy, directed by Joe Kosinski.
That definitely sounds interesting. We should do a show of what things we would bring back and make it dope.
By the way, that TV show was groundbreaking. I know a lot of people aren't old enough to have remembered that show, but like for its time, like the stuff they did with music, the stuff they would shoot in that the way they would shoot it, because Mann was sort of involved in the beginning of the show and then kind of dropped out, but that's a pretty cool like 80s time capsule thing with Don Johnson.
Is there anything else, Brian?
No, those are my two main ones for this week: Smashing Machine and a surprise Miami Vice remake.